Hill Street Blues, 1981 to 1987, revolutionized television drama with its gritty realism, complex characters, and emotionally charged storylines. Set in a chaotic urban police precinct, the show broke new ground and won critical acclaim for portraying the human side of law enforcement like never before. But while the series lives on as a landmark in TV history, many of the talented actors who gave it life have sadly passed away. Some were taken too soon, others after long careers, all leaving behind unforgettable performances. In this tribute, we honor the stars of Hill Street Blues who are no longer with us, remembering the impact they made on one of television's most groundbreaking shows. Michael Conrad, who portrayed the wise and fatherly Sergeant Phil Esterhaus in Hill Street Blues, was 56 when he took on the role that made him a household name. Known for his iconic send-off, "Let's be careful out there," Conrad became a symbol of quiet authority and mentorship within the gritty precinct. Off-screen, his life was marred by hidden battles. He was married once to German actress Loretta Weigel, but their relationship ended bitterly after years of tension surrounding his long absences and rumored infidelities. They had one daughter, Helene, whom he rarely saw due to custody disputes. Conrad struggled with chronic health issues and a long-term smoking habit, which eventually led to urethral cancer. His stoic demeanor on screen hid depression exacerbated by career disappointments before Hill Street Blues, and he worried constantly that he would be typecast. His death in 1983 at age 58 devastated fans and colleagues. He passed away alone in a Los Angeles hospital room. Despite his Emmy wins, he left behind modest assets valued around $500,000, much of which was allocated to medical bills and a trust for his estranged daughter. Conrad was remembered as a towering talent whose later fame couldn't undo years of emotional turmoil. Barbara Bosson, who played the emotional and strong-willed Faye Furillo, ex-wife to Captain Frank Furillo, brought nuance and raw vulnerability to her performance that earned her 5 Emmy nominations. Off-screen, Bosson's life mirrored the intensity of her character. She was married to acclaimed writer-producer Stephen Bochco, the creator of Hill Street Blues, and their marriage appeared strong at first, yielding one son, Jesse Bochco. But the pressures of Hollywood, Bochco's rising fame, and Bosson's fading career after the show led to a painful divorce in 1997. She never remarried, often confessing that she lost herself in the role of wife and mother. After Hill Street, she struggled to secure meaningful roles and quietly withdrew from the industry by the late 90s. Friends noted her increasing reclusiveness and health concerns related to a decades-long battle with anxiety and late-onset diabetes. She passed away in 2023 at the age of 83. At the time of her death, she lived modestly in a Santa Monica apartment and was supported primarily by residuals and Social Security. Her estate was valued at approximately $300,000. Bosson's legacy remains that of a woman who poured her soul into her work, even as her private life quietly unraveled. Keel Martin, who brought to life the charismatic yet deeply flawed detective J.D. LaRue, was only 33 when he was cast on Hill Street Blues. His character, often battling alcoholism and impulsive behavior, reflected Martin's own struggles with substance abuse and personal demons. Off-camera, Martin led a turbulent life. He married twice, first to Claudia Martin, the daughter of legendary entertainer Dean Martin, with whom he had one daughter named Jessie. The marriage was short-lived, ending in divorce after just 2 years due to Keel's heavy drinking and erratic behavior. His second marriage, to a makeup artist named Christina Lee, ended amid allegations of infidelity and verbal abuse. Though he tried to revive his career after Hill Street, roles became sparse, and he never found steady work again. Financial instability followed, worsened by unpaid taxes and failed investments. Diagnosed with lung cancer in 1989, Martin faced a rapid decline and died in 1990 at the age of 46. He spent his final months in near isolation, estranged from both ex-wives and financially dependent on friends. His assets at the time of death totaled less than $50,000. Martin's life remains a sobering tale of early fame eclipsed by personal ruin. René Enriquez, who portrayed the loyal and principled Lieutenant Ray Cayetano, was 48 when he joined Hill Street Blues. Known for his quietly powerful presence, his role helped pave the way for greater Latino representation on television. In reality, Enriquez was a deeply private man whose calm public persona masked years of inner turmoil. He never married, citing a lifelong conflict with his conservative Catholic upbringing and his secret homosexuality, which he kept hidden due to fears it would end his career. He adopted 2 children, twin boys named Mateo and Luis, with a longtime friend in a platonic partnership, but kept them out of the spotlight. After the series ended, Enriquez was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, which he kept secret from nearly everyone except his closest friends. He struggled with feelings of unfulfillment, fearing his legacy wouldn't extend beyond his most famous role. He died in 1990 at the age of 58. His estate was estimated at around $150,000, much of it left in trust for his sons. Despite the secrecy surrounding his life, those who knew him remembered him as kind, fiercely intelligent, and tragically burdened by the times he lived in. Robert Prosky, who played the tough and seasoned Sergeant Stanislaus Jablonski in the final seasons of Hill Street Blues, was 52 when he joined the series, bringing a sense of old-school gravitas to the role. A veteran of stage and screen, Prosky's late entry into television fame did little to soothe the years of professional and personal hardship he'd endured. Married to Ida Hove since 1960, their relationship survived infidelity rumors and financial strain, but was marked by intense disagreements and long periods of separation due to his career. They had 3 sons, John, Andy, and Stefan, 2 of whom followed him into acting. Despite his gruff appearance, Prosky was plagued by self-doubt, especially after the series ended, when he found it increasingly hard to land substantial roles. Health issues, including diabetes and heart problems, slowed him in later years. He passed away in 2008 at the age of 77 due to complications from heart surgery. At the time of his death, Prosky's estate was valued at approximately $1.2 million, primarily from stage work and prudent investments. He was remembered by colleagues as a generous mentor and a gentle soul who quietly bore the weight of decades of inner and professional battles. Robert Hirschfeld, who portrayed Desk Sergeant Leo Schnitz in Hill Street Blues, was 39 when he joined the series as the quiet, steadfast desk sergeant whose calm demeanor stood in stark contrast to the chaos of the precinct. His subtle, grounded performance earned him deep respect among the ensemble cast. Off-screen, Hirschfeld led a deeply private life, overshadowed by personal grief. He married Marjorie Keller in the mid-70s, and they had 1 son, Daniel, but the couple divorced in 1984 after years of emotional strain and Hirschfeld's increasing battles with depression. Following Hill Street Blues, his career struggled. He took minor television roles but never regained the spotlight. In the 1990s, he suffered a financial collapse after a failed investment in a small theater company. Estranged from his son, who moved abroad, and increasingly reclusive, Hirschfeld's final years were marked by loneliness and deteriorating health due to diabetes and heart disease. He died in 2009 at age 67 from congestive heart failure in a modest Los Angeles apartment. At the time of his death, his estate was worth approximately $40,000, consisting mainly of residuals and personal effects. Pat Corley, known for his role as Chief Coroner Wally Nydorf on Hill Street Blues, was 51 when he first stepped into the role of the dryly humorous, unshakable coroner. His understated wit and calm presence offered a unique texture to the show's tense atmosphere. Though his career included steady work in character roles, Corley never found a breakout leading role. Behind the scenes, he faced personal heartbreak. Married to actress Iris Carter, their relationship was long but tumultuous, often strained by his heavy drinking and infidelity. They had 2 children, Jennifer and Lucas, both of whom distanced themselves from the entertainment industry and, at times, from their father. In the 1990s, Corley's health declined, and he was diagnosed with emphysema, likely linked to his decades-long smoking habit. The final years of his life were marred by isolation after Iris left him, and he reportedly lived alone in a small home in Studio City, California. He died in 2006 at the age of 76 due to congestive heart failure. At the time of his death, his estate was estimated at around $150,000, with most of it left to his children, though they reportedly had little contact with him in his final years. John Cypher, who portrayed the shrewd and politically motivated Chief Fletcher Daniels in Hill Street Blues, was already an established actor when he took on the role at age 49. His character's behind-the-scenes manipulations and occasional arrogance added a crucial layer of tension to the series. Off-camera, Cypher's life was less composed than his character's. He married Carol Rosin, a prominent scientist and activist, in 1972, but their marriage ended in divorce in 1994, following years of disagreements over lifestyle choices and career priorities. They had one daughter, Elena, who later struggled with substance abuse, causing further stress in Cypher's later life. After the show's end, Cypher's career declined sharply. A stage accident in 1992 severely injured his hip, leaving him with chronic pain and limiting his mobility. This incident also curtailed his acting opportunities. Financial troubles plagued him in the late 2000s, and he was forced to sell his longtime home. Now in his 90s, Cypher lives in a small assisted living facility in Oregon. His current net worth is estimated to be around $80,000, mostly from residual checks and a modest pension. He reportedly spends his time writing poetry and reflecting on a life that never quite delivered the legacy he once hoped for. George Weiner, who played Assistant District Attorney Erwin Bernstein, was 36 when he assumed the role of the sharp, bureaucratic legal mind whose loyalty to procedure often clashed with street-level justice. Weiner brought intellectual precision and a dry edge to the role, and though he continued acting steadily after Hill Street Blues, his career remained confined to supporting parts. Privately, Weiner's life mirrored the formality of his character, structured but emotionally distant. He married Deborah Kaplan, a literary editor, in 1974, and they had 3 children, Micah, Zoe, and Ruben. The marriage ended quietly in 2001 after years of emotional separation and conflicting worldviews. His middle child, Zoe, publicly criticized him in a memoir for being absent and emotionally unavailable. Following the divorce, Weiner lived alone and grew increasingly withdrawn. A failed attempt to launch a theater company in 2005 cost him much of his savings. Now 79, he resides in a modest apartment in Pasadena and has largely withdrawn from public life. His estimated net worth is about $200,000, mostly from careful investments and recurring TV royalties. Despite professional recognition, Weiner has admitted in interviews to feeling haunted by regret over his broken family and faded ambitions. James B. Sikking, who portrayed the eccentric and militaristic Lieutenant Howard Hunter, brought a unique blend of satire and intensity to Hill Street Blues. He was 47 when he took on the role, and his performance as the war-loving, ultra-patriotic officer became one of the show's most memorable elements. In real life, Sikking often felt typecast and resented that Hunter became his defining role. Though he found limited success in guest spots after the series, he never recaptured that level of acclaim. Married to Florine Sikking since the late 1950s, they had one son, Andrew, but the marriage was not as picture-perfect as it appeared. Long separations due to work and creative frustrations led to multiple unofficial separations, though they never legally divorced. Sikking also faced several personal tragedies. His brother died in a car crash in 1986, his son battled severe depression in his 20s, and he lost a fortune in a failed real estate deal in 1993. Now 91. Sikking lives in relative quiet in a retirement community in California. He occasionally gives lectures on acting but rarely appears publicly. His estate is estimated at $500,000, a fraction of what he once earned, and he reportedly lives modestly, estranged from much of Hollywood and reflective on a career that both elevated and trapped him. Torian Black, who portrayed Detective Neil Washington on Hill Street Blues, was 41 when he stepped into the role of the loyal, grounded officer who often served as the moral compass amid the chaos of the precinct. A deeply religious man, Black brought dignity to his role, which resonated with viewers. Off-screen, however, his life was marked by sorrow and quiet endurance. Though he never married, he fathered 2 biological children and adopted 10 more, driven by his deep faith and compassion. But financial instability plagued him after the show ended, as consistent roles became scarce due to industry typecasting. He suffered multiple strokes in the late 2000s and lived modestly in Atlanta, relying in part on support from his church community. Despite being offered minor TV roles, he largely withdrew from acting by the late 1990s, citing disillusionment. Estranged from several of his adopted children, whom he struggled to support emotionally and financially, Black lived his final years in relative solitude. He passed away in 2022 at the age of 82 due to complications from a stroke. At the time of his death, his estate was estimated at less than $300,000, and several of his children were engaged in a quiet dispute over the little that remained. His legacy, however, endures through his powerful work and tireless advocacy for adoption. Ed Marinaro, who played Officer Joe Coffey, was just 31 when he took on the role of the brave, empathetic officer whose moral backbone and inner turmoil made him a fan favorite. Before acting, he had a successful NFL career, but after Hill Street Blues, he struggled to maintain his television momentum. Though he appeared in a few TV dramas, none matched his earlier success. His personal life was equally uneven. He married former model Tracy York in the early 1990s, and they had one son, Eddie Jr., but the marriage endured prolonged tensions due to Ed's extended filming schedules and rumored infidelities. Though never publicly divorced, the couple reportedly lived separately for several years. After a failed investment in a restaurant chain that left him nearly bankrupt in the early 2000s, Marinaro retreated from public life and moved to a quiet area near Lake Tahoe. He lives there now in semi-retirement, occasionally coaching college football. Once a household name, Marinaro today is rarely recognized in public. He has spoken candidly in rare interviews about the loneliness of fame and his regrets over lost time with his family. Now 75 years old, his net worth is estimated at around $500,000, though most of his wealth was spent long before his career faded into obscurity. Joe Spano, who portrayed the sensitive and cerebral Lieutenant Henry Goldblum, was 35 when he took on the role of the idealistic officer struggling to maintain his compassion in a brutal environment. Known for his reflective demeanor and dedication to justice on screen, Spano's personal life was filled with inner battles. He married therapist Joan Zarian in the early 1980s, and they adopted 2 daughters, Liana and Miriam, but their marriage was strained by Spano's struggles with depression and his obsessive dedication to his craft. After Hill Street Blues, he faced professional setbacks, with long stretches of unemployment and poorly received roles that left him disillusioned. He turned briefly to theater but was devastated when a stage production he co-wrote flopped critically and financially. In 2003, he suffered a nervous breakdown and retreated from acting for several years. Though still married, his relationship with his wife reportedly became platonic and distant. Spano now lives quietly in California, rarely appearing in public, dedicating his time to mental health advocacy, born from his own lifelong struggles. At 78, his estimated net worth is around $700,000, much of which is tied up in his modest home. Despite professional disappointment, he remains quietly revered by fans who remember his powerful early performances. Dennis Franz, who brought to life the gritty and volatile Lieutenant Norman Bunce, was 37 when he joined Hill Street Blues. His portrayal of the tough, morally ambiguous officer was praised for its realism and depth. However, Franz found himself typecast after the show, and though he later gained fame on NYPD Blue, the public often confused his characters with his real self, which deeply affected him. He married Joni Zek in 1995, becoming a stepfather to her 2 children Amber and Derek, but struggled with the role due to his own unresolved childhood trauma. He admitted in a rare 2012 interview to having suffered abuse as a child, which haunted both his career and personal life. Franz retired from acting in 2005, citing burnout, but sources close to him suggested he had a falling out with several Hollywood colleagues over creative disputes. In the years that followed, he became increasingly reclusive, reportedly suffering from paranoia and insomnia. He now lives in Idaho, largely cut off from the public, enjoying only occasional visits from family. At 80, his health is reported to be fragile, and though his estate is estimated at $14 million, he has directed most of it into trusts for his stepchildren and to charities supporting veterans. He rarely speaks about Hollywood now, having turned away from it completely. Which character from Hill Street Blues, TV series 1981 to 1987, holds a special place in your heart? How does it make you feel knowing that some of the beloved cast members are no longer with us? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to share them in the comments below. If you've been enjoying this content, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thank you for watching.